What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review a 2013 mixtape by Yo Gotti. Basically, this project is called November 19th, the mixtape, and it came out in the late summer of 2013. So the thing about this particular project is Yo Gotti dropped a mixtape in late 2011 called like January 10th, the mixtape, some pitches like that. That had a charting single on there called I Got That Sack, which is a pretty good pitch as far as that particular kind of went along with it. But mixtapes were on a pretty heralded high throughout 2011, 2012 as far as that pitch kind of went, and Yo Gotti was a pretty large mixtape rapper around that particular time. So 2012, 2011, 2013 was definitely kind to Yo Gotti as far as that particular pitch went along with it. This particular mixtape does not have a charting single like last time as far as that pitch kind of went. A song like I Got That Sack or something like that. But this is probably the better mixtape between the two of them. I think I like November 19th better than I like January 10th. This one just has more flair, a lot more finesse, and this overall stylistic type swag about it that this works extremely well. Even though that particular project maybe had more kind of trap oriented nightclub bops on that particular one, I would have to say this one's still some pretty good pizzazz about it, and this overall has some great appeal. Yo Gotti just pulled off a better execution on this particular mixtape, and it's just a good burst of energy here that just has some pretty this overall concentratedness. It just kind of has some overall concentrated and inspired type flair, I'd have to say, just in particular as far as that pitch kind of goes. But basically, Yo Gotti dropped a pretty large album in 2012 called Live from the Kitchen as far as that particular kind of went. Had some charting singles on there like Single and 5-Star Bitch and some of those type ones in particular, and Cases was a pretty good song. It was a pretty scant album in terms of like the number of songs, but it was still a pretty quality type one. It was definitely the type of album that the rap game needed in like early 2012 as far as that pitch kind of went. Just, Drake was popular in early 2012 and pitches like that, late 2011, some of those type pitches, and the sounds were starting to shift with like Odd Future and Travis Porter and some of those type folks, and more pop rap type stuff, Nicki Minaj, some of those type folks. So Yo Gotti was just a breath of fresh air when it came to trap music and more mixtape type grind. Between Yo Gotti and 2 Chainz, those were some good folks to kind of fuck with around the early 2010s period as far as that particular kind of went. But this is a good project just because, it had been a year and a half since early 2012 when Live from the Kitchen in January 10th had kind of dropped. So it was a good pitch. I want to say that Yo Gotti dropped like a series of mixtapes as well, like some cocaine music and some pitches like that. But I wanted to get to this particular project just because back in April, I reviewed the January 10th mixtape as far as that particular pitch kind of went. And this one is the better one, like I was saying. That one may have had more charting singles and just more nightclub type bops, but this one definitely has some appeal. Just really like the wintry brush of this particular one. It has some finesse on here, just has that suaveness factor as far as that particular kind of goes. It's elegant, kind of similar to like Biggie's. Some of the elegance on this particular project is similar to Biggie's Life After Death, I'd have to suppose, in particular, especially like the first couple songs you hear, I'd have to say. But there is some pretty good snap about this particular project, and it's just an excellent type flair. So I would definitely recommend downloading this. This is a great burst of energy, and especially for like a late era mixtape, as mixtapes started to phase out, at least in terms of like the free format before they became more of like purchasable downloads as far as that particular pitch kind of happened, more retail type mixtapes, I'd have to say. This is definitely a late era mixtape that just has a lot of quality and is definitely worth it in some of that era as far as that pitch kind of went with some of that type stuff. Apart from Meek Mill's Dream Chasers 3, this would be another good one to kind of fuck with here. Just in like the late 2013, early 2014 era and some pitches like that as those mixtapes started to phase out. But yeah, there's basically not any singles on this particular mixtape. So I'm just going to go ahead and recommend the 5.5 songs out of 8 that I recommend on here. So basically there's 11 songs on this particular mixtape, but the fact of the matter is there's 2 real talk songs that are just interludes and pitches like that, and then there's an outro that's just kind of like a speaking skit as far as that particular kind of goes. There's 8 songs on here. Out of those 8, I wound up recommending 5.5, so it's kind of the pitch about it. So we'll go ahead and recommend these. So it would basically be Gangsters Don't Talk, Cocaine Cowboy, Sometimes, On My Own, and 10 Shots, and then the almost song is Fuck You. So just to be able to talk about some of these, basically the reason why Fuck You is an almost song is just because that's also on Yo Gotti's I Am album from late 2013, the November 19th album that came out on November 19th, which is the I Am album. Basically that was a pretty good pitch. I reviewed that back in early 2023, I'd have to say, as far as that pitch kind of went along with it. You can find that in the Yo Gotti playlist, but Fuck You's a pretty good highlight off that particular album. I want to say that that was a single release from that particular album. Just a real nice nightclub type pitch for just kind of having like a Fuck You's just kind of a song for being in a middle fingers raised kind of mood as far as that particular pitch kind of goes along with it. Just some good turn up type flair to kind of have. This is a pretty good nightclub bop on here, but I would probably just recommend getting the I Am album from 2013. It's just a better pitch to kind of get that on that particular flair. But it is a nice song, but it's just an almost song because you can find it on the album. To talk about some of these other songs, like a real nice one on here is Gangsta Don't Talk. This is the first song you hear on this particular mixtape, I'd have to say, and this is like a real elegant kind of mafioso refinement of a song, I'd have to say. is like a great this song is like a great steadfast kind of winter brush of a song, I'd have to say, and this is just a pretty gussied up type song, I'd have to say in particular. So it's definitely one for looking a little bit more elegant and graceful as far as that pitch gun goes. Definitely some mafioso type feel as far as that pitch gun goes. Definitely reminds me of Biggie from the Life After Death days, Biggie and Puffy as far as that particular kind of went. Some nice pitches to kind of get that just elegant type flair, just some winter brush. Just really works for like the cold weather pitches like that. Great song to listen to November, December, October, some of those type pitches. McRib season, some of those type pitches, just some of those particular aspects as far as that particular kind of goes. Just some excellent type concepts kind of get there. Real nice one. Really like Yo Gotti just has a lot of flair on this particular song and just nails it extremely well, I'd have to say. A throwback song on this particular mixtape would be Cocaine Cowboy. If you do miss like the early 2010s drill type sound of like Waka Flocka and Gucci Mane, some of those type folks, I'd have to say this is a pretty nice one. It's like a good late era this song is like a good late era 2010s drill bop, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a rowdy, the song's like a rowdy party starter, I'd have to say in particular, and this is just like a throwback kind of Gotti hit, I'd have to suppose. So this one definitely reminds me of like Hard in the Paint by Waka Flocka Flame. Definitely like, this is what I talk about when I say that mixtapes were kind of phasing out in like 2013, 2014, just because the concept of some of these type of songs, this was in its prime. This was Bell of the Ball back in 2010, 2011, as far as that pitch kind of went. But just between like January 10th from like late 2011 to this particular project in September of 2013, is this kind of the concept as to how the tides had kind of shifted and pitches like that as drill had started to phase out. But it's a pretty excellent type song. I still appreciate this type sound, and I still fuck with it as far as that particular type pitch kind of happens with it. But this is just a dope concept to kind of get here, and it's just kind of a relic at this particular stage, but it's still a good one. It's still a pretty good one to kind of have for that retro type aspect, and just some good throwback type hits as far as that particular kind of goes. And it's a free hit, just being able to say it's a good club bopper as far as that particular kind of goes. It's got some rowdy raucous kind of energy, I'd have to say. It's a good Kickstarter, even if it is kind of throwback. I still fuck with it enough to say it's a good highlight. And then 10 Shots is a pretty nice one. This doesn't have Yo Gotti. This is not a Yo Gotti song. This is by a cat named Jordan Hollywood, I'd have to say in particular. It's just kind of a differential aspect. I mean, Yo Gotti was putting some folks on around this particular time, so this is some folks off his CMG label, I'd have to say. Still a pretty dope song. There's only one song, there's a couple songs on here that Yo Gotti, there's one song on this particular project that Yo Gotti isn't on and all, and it's a huge unfortunateness. It's a huge misnomer just because he probably should have been on that particular song, but just like last time on the January 10th mixtape, he kind of did that as well, but this is a good concept. 10 Shots at least has a Yo Gotti guest verse on here. It's like a plush kind of hooky trap and B type song. By trap and B, I mean trap R&B, I'd have to say. This is just some pizzazz radio ready. It's like some plush hooky trap and B pizzazz, I'd have to say. It's like a radio ready kind of suave ladies bop, I would have to say, for bar hopping, definitely. This is just a real nice one. So this one's pretty commercial, I'd have to say. Pretty nice single to kind of get here. Just some affable type pitch, kind of have for like some good glitzy kind of bar hopping pitches like that. Has a real plush and kind of silky kind of hook as far as that particular kind of goes with that. It's real radio ready pitches like that. Pretty commercial just within that sense. Definitely the sort of sound that needed to happen in like late 2013, early 2014 as far as that kind of went along with it. Just some excellent type stuff to kind of get on here. Yo Gotti suits this particular type song. It's a little bit commercial for Yo Gotti, but I still would have to say it's a good concept to get him on these particular type songs. Pretty similar to like I Know and Act Right and some of those type songs off of I Am as far as that particular pitch kind of goes along with it. Just a good pitch. I do like some of these commercial trap type tunes from Yo Gotti circa 2013, 2014 because they were pretty nice. Basically, the best beat on this whole mixtape would have to be On My Own, I'd have to say. Now, that's saying something just because there's a lot of quality beats on this particular project, but I would definitely have to say that On My Own is a real superb and excellent type one. It's like a jazzy and kind of spicy nightclub flash of a song, I'd have to say in particular. Yo Gotti definitely belonged on this particular song. He doesn't drop a verse on the song. He has like some interludes that he kind of speaks on this song. He has some interludes that he speaks on this particular song, and it's very awesome to get him on the song when he speaks on it because he's probably one of the best parts of this particular song. It's not to say that these other rappers don't do a good job, but he definitely should have been on here. But this is just a pretty exuberant hit, I'd have to say. So this is definitely a very emphatic type song. Just a real nice one. This is just a feel-good song that should get you in a pretty exuberant type mood pretty quickly, I'd have to say. Just a real thrilling type one. It exhilarates pretty damn well, I'd have to say in particular. Just a real nice one. Glitzy nightclub type flash. It really was a sin that Yo Gotti wasn't on the song, but it just overall has that appeal, I'd have to say. So it's just a good concept. And then Sometimes is a pretty highlighted one. This is a Yo Gotti solo song. This is another nice one. This is like a determined kind of on the grind evening cut, I'd have to say. This is like an out in the wind kind of jive that this song particularly kind of has, and this is just a get to the money type tune, I'd have to suppose in particular. So I do appreciate this particular song. It's a real nice hustle tune to kind of get here. Just some bustling type flair as far as that particular kind of goes along with it. Just a nice evening type grinder as far as that particular kind of goes along with it. Just some good stuff for kind of getting out and about, just being in the wind in like the evening sense. It's kind of where kind of I would have to say as far as like the task not being done when it's like 6:30, 7:30 p.m. Just kind of some extra grind, just overtime pitches as far as that particular kind of goes along with it. Just a real strengthy type one to kind of get where like some bustle just within the evening night type sense. It's really motivational type one. It could even be like a smokish type song just to kind of smoke in like the late type sessions, going out and getting some snack and some pitches like that. But it just is a very driven type song. I'd have to say I really appreciate the concept behind it. It's a motivational type one that takes it back to mixtape type flair of like 2011, 2012, and 2010 as far as that kind of goes along with it. This is a typical kind of Yo Gotti type fashion, I'd have to say. So that's some pretty good concepts. That's the concept about this particular mixtape. So to talk about the songs I don't recommend on here. Basically, the Breathe freestyle was just a little bit overly dramatic type one. I feel like Gangsta Don't Talk just nailed that particular kind of more mafioso type vibe just better. That one was just a little bit more kind of, the Breathe freestyle was just a little bit more rugged and kind of edgy of one that just didn't really have as much of like a smooth, and just the emphasis of Breathe freestyle was just not quite as emphatic compared to Gangsta Don't Talk, compared to Gangsters Don't Talk as far as that particular pitch went along with it. And then I'd have to say that like the Yayo song with CMG Snooty as far as that particular pitch kind of happened was just kind of a poor type one. I mean, this one was pretty contemporary. This is another contemporary kind of trap and beat type song, or at least a contemporary trap circa 2013, 2014, that Migos and kind of ATL type sound, that Future and Migos and pitches like that. Rich Homie Quan, some of those type folks that were contemporary in 2013, 2014 were kind of doing. It's very contemporary as far as that pitch kind of goes, but it just wasn't as affable in terms of the pitch behind it. I just feel like the cadence and the delivery of the lyrics on this particular song were just pretty poor and were just not that catchy as far as that particular kind of went along with it. It was just kind of clumsy and cumbersome as far as that pitch kind of went. I do feel like the production fare was interesting. I feel like if it had had like a different cadence and approach to how this song particularly kind of turned out, it probably would have been a lot better. Both Yo Gotti and Snooty on this particular song just dropped the ball in the way that they delivered the bars on this particular song. It just was not that catchy or overall really had that enthrallment as far as trying to listen towards that particular one. But basically that's just some minor complaints. For the most part, most of this mixtape is pretty kick-ass and wicked as far as that particular kind of goes along with it. So me basically recommending 5.5 songs out of 8 on this particular mixtape. I'm gonna go ahead and give this mixtape like an 8 out of 10. Like last time I gave January 10th like a 6.75 or a 7, some pitches like that, but this one is clearly the better one. This has a lot of emphatic type draw about it. There's a lot of exciting productions on here, and it's just an overall throw-in project that's just like a jolt in the arm, and just has a lot of overall excitement and overall compellingness that just works extremely well. This is a pretty just overall affable type one that just the charm behind it is just pretty strong, and just the charm about it is just pretty strong, I would have to say, in particular, and it just has like a certain spark that mixtapes in 2013 were kind of missing. I mean, yeah, you did have Lil Wayne's Dedication 5 around this time, and Meek Mill's Dream Chasers 3. You had Lil Wayne's Dedication 5 around this time, and Meek Mill's Dream Chasers 3 as far as that pitch kind of went. But then in terms of like some new content, or just apart from Dream Chasers 3, this is another good highlight to kind of get in like some late era mixtape type fare as those started to phase out more as we got into 2014 and pitches like that, I'd have to say. But it's a dope enough concept, would definitely have to say. The social score, I'm going to go ahead and give like a 9.25 out of 10, because I feel like all of these have some pretty damn well quality, I'd have to suppose. Even the Yayo song with Snooty is a pretty nice one in terms of like the relative production type fare, even though I don't recommend that song just because of the clumsy execution. But I would still have to say that 7 out of 8 songs on here have some degree of emphaticness and just overall draw that just has a lot of social appeal. The only real natch to this particular project is just the fact that it didn't have a charting single, but I feel like the fact that Yo Gotti had 4 singles off of his I Am album is kind of the concept about it. This is just kind of the pitch behind it, but I would have to say 9.25 social in terms of the social score. There's plenty of good nightlife. On My Own is a real blast of a song to listen to in nightclub type flash. 10 Shots is a pretty nice ladies type song to kind of get for some trap R&B type stuff as far as that pitch kind of goes. Cocaine Cowboy is a classic drill type song. Fuck You's like a real rowdy type club type song. Gangsters Don't Talk is a nice winter brush of a song, so there's some pitches like that, and sometimes it's a real nice hustle song for just being out on the grind and out and about and like the evening flair. So it's just some good concepts, just would have to say. So in terms of the future, that's kind of here and there, just because supposedly Yo Gotti retired some pitches like that. Yo Gotti has been dropping projects with folks on his label. He's put out like compilations and things like that, and there's been like Gangsta Grills tapes and some of those type pitches. So I want to say that he's still around just within that relative pitch. We'll definitely have to get to some more of these projects. I am eventually going to review The Art of Hustle from 2016 and some of those type pitches. We're definitely going to get to some more of these, but this is a real surprise hit of a project here. I'd have to say definitely better than January 10th. I'd have to say just some excellent type stuff to kind of get here, and I would have to say I extremely recommend this project. Just would have to say it's pretty damn awesome.